Welcome to Tigrai Television. I'm Erin Imano. Will be reading the news for you today. Stay tuned. Proceeding to the details. On Tuesday, Tigray External Affairs Office released a statement on an exclusive report by the New Humanitarian that quoted a UN official that said more than 9,500 Tigrayans were detained in one concentration camp in Afar region. While the statement appreciated efforts to shed light on atrocities being committed on Tigrayans, the office said that the report fell far too short of the describing of the scale of violence being perpetrated on Tigrayans in Ethiopia. Salomit Khalai has the details.
The government of Tigray has issued a statement following an exclusive report by the New Humanitarian that identified multiple concentration camps holding Tigrayans in the Afar region and funded by the Ethiopian government. The article quoted a UN official and other witnesses that attested to the detention of more than 9,500 Tigrayans in one concentration camp in Afar and said many had been arbitrarily detained for months and living in inhuman conditions, confirming the death of at least 70 people. The statement said, while attempting to bring to light the plight of Tigrayans living in Ethiopia had fallen far short of revealing the intensity of atrocities committed on Tigrayans. The office called the concentration camps in Afar were just one of many where Tigrayans were languishing and said thousands more were being held in degrading conditions as they were left to starve and die, and said it was disappointing to see the world failing to prevent these mass-scale atrocities on Tigrayans across Ethiopia. The statement stated the disappointment of the government of Tigray that the article failed to recognize that Tigrayan forces are engaged in a battle of self-defense and said it was disappointed to see that the article had taken from Ethiopian officials talking points to address Tigray's forces. The statement also said that while there had in fact been an improvement in the delivery of humanitarian supplies into Tigray over the past few weeks, there remained a deliberate obstruction of humanitarian operations in the region with the continued restriction of fuel and other essential supplies. The statement also asked for humanitarian aid to be depoliticized and allow unfettered access so as to reach the millions in dire need in Tigray.
A special rapporteur on the human rights situation in Eritrea presented his latest report on human rights situation in Eritrea to the United Nations Human Rights Council on Wednesday and said that the situation was growing more dire in light of the war in Tigray and that has led to the forced conscription of children as young as 12 into national service. The report said conscripts that attempted to escape the war were extrajudicially killed in Tigray or in training camps in Eritrea, while family members of youngsters attempting to evade conscription were being detained and denied food coupons. Abel Zagabu has the report.
Special Rapporteur on the situation of human rights in Eritrea issued a report on the situation of human rights in Eritrea on Tuesday, saying the human rights situation in Eritrea has shown no improvement over the past few years and has in fact deteriorated since the start of the war on Tigray. The report said that Eritrea's involvement in the war on Tigray has compounded the severe human rights challenge Eritrea faces and reinforced pre-existing patterns of human rights violations. The Special Rapporteur emphasized that peace deal between Ethiopia and Eritrea had been a source of optimism amongst many that it would result in the reform of national service, but has instead seen the program that it identifies as one of the main sources of human rights violation in the country further intensifies. The report recognized the forced conscription of children as young as 12 and people as old as 17 being forced into national service, and said children as young as 16 were said to be taking part in active combat with very limited military training, and has reported them as having sustained heavy injury. The report said that young people were forced to participate in the war on Tigray under threat of severe punishment to themselves and their families. According to the report, draft evaders or deserters are routinely punished with arbitrary detention in highly punitive conditions and often subjected to torture and inhuman or degrading treatment, and extrajudicial killing of conscripts when they try to escape from Tigray or from training centers in Eritrea. The report said parents of conscripts were detained, coherence conscripts into serving into the military, and failure to respond to a conscription notice by a member of the family would result in the denial of food coupons for entire family. The report said that forced conscription of children has affected the moral and motivation of young Eritreans and has resulted in severe brain drain in the country. This situation has also generated additional challenges for the quality and availability of basic services, including access to health and education. The report here emphasized that while the Eritrean government had announced the withdrawal of its forces from Tigray in June of 2021, it had confirmed the presence of Eritrean forces in northern and western Tigray as early as August of 2021, including Eritrean troops' occupation of a key area in western Tigray that may be used to deliver assistance through Sudan. The report here also highlighted persistent challenges in the protection of Eritrean refugees in Ethiopia and said many had been forcibly taken back to Eritrea and later forced to return to Tigray as soldiers to take part in active combat. The report also indicated to the failure of Eritrean state to make any progress towards the development of minimal institutions, infrastructures necessary to effectively protect and ensure respect for human rights in Eritrea, and emphasized that basic principles towards the implement of rule of law were yet to be implemented. As the state continues to suppress religious as well as political rights of the Eritrean people, and many are detained in inhuman condition for their political and religious beliefs. The report called for the immediate and unconditional release of all persons illegally and arbitrarily detained by Eritrean authorities, including the 11 members of the G15 members of the political opposition, journalists, prisoners of conscience, and members of religious groups, and to take necessary steps to prevent forced conscription in the recruitment of children to fight in Tigray. The report here recommended that member states and international organizations keep Eritrea under close scrutiny as the human rights situation in the country remains dire and exercise universal jurisdiction over alleged crimes against humanity and grave human rights violation when an alleged offense is present in their territory of member states.
As a means of assisting the most vulnerable members of the community, local charity organization Keradun has been organizing breakfast feeding programs for children here in Mala. Our reporter visited the site to find medical doctors that had taken this opportunity to provide free screening and treatment for children suffering from scabies and other communicable diseases that have now become difficult to control in light of the near-complete collapse of Tigray's health system. Salome Takhalai presents Kubron Wildeberhan's report.
A year-long blockade on food aid and vital services, such as telecommunication and banking, has left many in Tigray desperate for essentials, even food. One way communities in Maqala have been supporting one another is through breakfast feeding programs for children. Keradun Charity Organization is just one of a few local charity organizations collecting funds as little as $1 to organize a daily breakfast feeding program here in Maqala. Every morning, 200 children gather near the Asr Shadishak Qabli Commercial Bank to receive just one bread and a cup of tea, very likely the only meal they will have that day.
We have more than 200 children that we feed breakfast on daily basis, and we have orphans that we help, and we have IDPs, which all of this comes from the community itself. So the challenges are tremendous, and the price of food has skyrocketed. As you know, the price of bread right now is very, very high. It's unaffordable. So all of those things are the challenge. These are the main challenges, but the challenges are, you cannot count them. There are so many.
But other charity organizations also take these opportunities to provide other badly needed services. Dr. Sofonas Malaku is the founder and CEO of Ma'adut Charity Organization. His charity is providing free screening and treatment for IDPs and children suffering from communicable diseases. Him and other doctors from Ma'adut have gathered here this morning to provide free screening and treatment for children that are suffering from scabies and other communicable diseases.
Today our focus is primarily on a disease called scabies, and it's one of the communicable, it's a highly contagious infectious skin disease, and it's caused by a parasitic agent called Coxella labyrinthe. When it comes to conditions like the ones that we are facing right now, the siege, the war, the lack of food, the lack of sanitation materials and lack of hygiene materials, you deal with complicated cases of scabies. One of the challenges that you face with this disease is that since it's very irritating and itching, the children, they scratch the lesions, the skin lesions. So there are no hygiene materials. You can expect what they are doing when they do that. They introduce other pathogens into the lesion, and you deal with a variant called super-infected scabies. To manage that, you will need antibiotics, which we don't have currently in abundance. So today, our primary aim is to sort out the case that we can manage and give them whatever available medications that we do have. And as part of the assessment, we're looking for other infectious diseases that we may seek out.
I always come here to eat breakfast. Today, I am also getting treatment. I have been suffering with this condition for the past year. I am always scratching my thigh and my arms, especially at night.
Dr. Sofonis says scabies is actually an easily treatable communicable disease, had it not been for the destruction of almost 80% of health facilities in Tigray. He says the near-complete collapse of the health system, in addition to the siege that has discontinued banking and other vital services, has made it impossible for patients to seek care or maintain basic hygiene.
I've been scratching my skin for almost 3 months now. Even though I knew I had scabies, I didn't know where to get the medication.
Dr. Sofonis and Ashannafi tell us that the work of charity organizations such as theirs falls far short of the intervention needed to address the humanitarian catastrophe on the ground. They say the world has to do more to ensure that the most vulnerable members of community have access to basics such as food, soap, and medication.
The siege is not able to stop. A lot of ensuing issues are not going to be solved, like banking, the health service, the medications coming in, a lot of the systems within the region. And if that doesn't change, we're going to deal with a lot of issues that will have a lot of ripple effects, and we're going to deal with this for a long time unless it's done early. And I urge the international community to act now. We have to act now because we are losing people.
As a matter of fact, we're standing in front of a bank which has not given service for almost a year now. But many people apparently have money here, but they cannot access it. So many people are suffering because of the war, because of the siege, because of the atrocities that has happened in Tigray, that has been committed in Tigray. So I say onto the international community that they have to do whatever they can as quick as possible, because we are racing against time right now.
Nouraini Muhammad is a resident of Ma'ala. She's known for her work advocating for HIV-positive patients in Tigray. She's a co-founder of Nur Salam HIV-Positive Patients Association of Tigray that has more than 300 members and workers to ensure that its members are informed and have access to medical care. But Nouraini says her condition and that of her association members has significantly deteriorated since the start of the siege on Tigray. She says, including her, are not able to access essentials such as food, while many are being forced to use expired medication. Our reporter Aragay Garumkail has more.
Nouraini Muhammad is a mother of 3. She is known for her advocacy to improve HIV patients' access to information and treatment. She says she learned she was HIV positive some 12 years ago, but sufficient access to information on the virus and access to health care, she says she has made it possible for her and her family to lead a healthy life.
I'm a co-founder of Nur Salam Association for HIV-positive people in Tigray. The main aim of our association is to ensure that persons living with the virus have the information they need to care for themselves and can lead a happy life.
But Nouraini says the situation has been difficult for herself, as well as many members of the association, since the start of the siege almost 1 year ago. Nouraini says many have not been able to access food or medication.
Everyone's suffering, that's clear, but HIV-positive persons are at a great disadvantage. There are no opportunities for work, and on top of that, we're not getting our medication. We've even had to take expired medication. All members of Nur Salam Association are in a stressful situation, and we don't have medication. I'm a mother of 3. My husband works as a gatekeeper, but his salary was terminated months ago, so currently we're living from the charity of others.
Nouraini says the discontinuation of banking service and communication has made life more difficult because that's meant that she is not able to access her savings or get support from family members across the border.
I depend on salary from the association and support from family members living abroad, but now I have nothing because banks are closed. There's no means of communication. I cannot even ask family abroad for some assistance. We're miserable now.
Nouraini says that if members of the association are not able to receive assistance in the near future, many may be in danger of losing their lives.
I call on everyone, living here or abroad, to help the association in supporting its members. Not only are the members HIV positive, but many are mothers responsible to support their children.
Nuraini's story is just one of the millions who have not able to access humanitarian assistance after an almost year-long blockade on the vital service and commercial goods that has made it impossible for people in Tigray to lead a normal life.
The discontinuation of basic services in Tigray, including the power blackout and blockade on fuel, has meant that residents of Ma'ala no longer have access to clean water. Residents of Ma'ala say they travel long distance to Wheels to find drinking water they know is likely to cause illness to them and their family members. Sara Kalali has the report.
The war on Tigray has devastated infrastructures essential for ordinary Tigrayans, including a blockade on banking and telecommunication. Equally concerning has been the lack of access to clean water. The power blackout coupled with the blockade on fuel has meant that the water supply system across the state have not been functional for much of the past years, and the urban residents are forced to walk miles to find disease-prone wells in the outskirts of the city. We spoke to some residents of the city of Ma'ala that tell us they're traveling miles to find water that they know is likely to cause illnesses to them and their family members.
We travel for well over an hour for water. Water is short in supply here, and the water we're getting here isn't clean. It causes illnesses.
Before the start of the war, when the water supply systems aren't working, government used to deliver water in tanks to each household. But now, people have no access to water supplies and are contracting many illnesses because of it.
The water we get here is really dirty. The well is really deep, and the water is found 9 meters down. Pulling it out from the well is killing our backs, but we don't have a choice. We're drinking it knowing it will give us illness.
The deputy head for the Bureau of Water Supply Drainage System in the city of Ma'ala, Burhanu Gabramaskal, says that the lack of water supply owes to the discontinuation of vital services, including the power blackout and lack of fuel. The head also emphasized that water treatment chemicals have been blocked from reaching Tigray.
We don't have water purifying chemicals like ammonia sulfate and chlorine. These have to be shipped from abroad. We also don't have fuel, so we can travel long distance to make repairs when the water system is damaged.
Burhanu also says that during their brief presence in Tigray,
Wholly damaged. The Garav Guba project was designed to resolve the city's water shortage problem. Even that has been partially destroyed.
The residents added that to try and mitigate the problems caused by the water, they are boiling the water before drinking, but say the humanitarian response in Tigray should include supplies for repairing water facilities and means for residents to treat water that is available.
There is lack of access to clean water, so we have to boil it before we can use it. We have to try and keep our health ourselves.
We have to boil the water we use, and I think all the NGOs should help providing water supply or water purifying chemicals. We travel for over an hour to get water. There are mothers who carry water with their children on their backs.
The systematic destruction to basic services, the ongoing siege, added to the electricity blackout and lack of fuel, has left Tigray devoid of the basic services essential to ensuring its people can lead a healthy life.
Serena Mulubrhan is just 4 years old. She says she learned to play tennis when she was just 2 years old, and she's dreamed of being as successful as her namesake Serena Williams ever since. But the siege on Tigray has made it difficult for Serena to pursue her dreams with the same intensity as she had before. Our reporter Winta Kidana met with Serena and her father, who says she's as eager as ever to live her dreams.
Serena Mulubrhan is just 4 years old, and like the legendary tennis player she is named after, Serena is an exceptionally talented tennis player. Serena says her father taught her how to play the game when she was just 2 years old, and she says she loves the game and hopes to be a professional athlete someday.
Playing tennis makes me happy. My dad taught me how to play. I was 2 years old when I started playing tennis. This is a racket and it's used to hit balls. My father and Coach Stefanos are coaching me. I want to be a professional tennis player when I grow up. I want to be just like Serena Williams and win as many games.
But Serena has not been able to continue her training as intently as she did before of the start of the siege on Tigray. Serena's rocket is broken and she has not been able to replace it. And she says she's not able to go to the court because her family's car no longer has fuel. But even more devastating is that despite being 4 years old, Serena is yet to attend any schooling.
I've never been to school, but my father tutors me. I'm short of a lot of things. My racket is broken. It was the only one I had. I'm not eating as much eggs and milks as I used to, so I'm not able to keep fit. And I can't come here anymore because my father says our car doesn't have fuel to bring me here.
Mulubrhan Gabrahiwat, Serena's father, was a sports teacher and said he had always wanted to teach his children tennis but didn't expect that his daughter would be so talented.
I had always wanted to teach my children tennis. I named my daughter after Serena so it could motivate her to the best. She started playing when she was just 2 years old. Her performance is amazing. She surprised me every time.
Mulubrhan says while Serena is exceptionally talented, he says he fears that the prolonged effects of the war on Tigray may hold back from living her dreams.
We used to line in Addis Ababa, but we came here because it was difficult for us there as Tigrayans. And after we came here, the war broke out and the siege followed. And now there's just very little room for talented children like Serena to grow.
Millions of children in Tigray, just like Serena, are finding it difficult to access education and other basics they will need to ensure a healthy and successful future. But luckily, hope is the one commodity amongst children in Tigray that's in short supply.